That constant push to prove yourself, please everyone, and hold it all together isn't strength. It's a slow drain on your soul. In this episode, we'll explore how to break free from the perfectionism, release the superwoman myth, and finally discover the freedom that comes from trusting yourself fully. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out without you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Jenn Verser. Jenn is a life coach and speaker who helps high achievers release perfectionism and people pleasing by rebuilding deep self-trust so they can grow their income and impact. A former Division I athlete, Ivy League coach, and corporate leader, she knows firsthand the pressure of chasing external validation. Today, she guides clients to reclaim their truth, embrace support as strength, and create lives defined not by expectations, but by freedom. Welcome to the show, Jenn. We're happy to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's great to have you here. So, what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals, we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
That's a wonderful question and just a beautiful way to look at the world, how we as one person can do something differently. And the thing that I encourage my clients over and over again is to trust themselves and speak their truth to themselves. The, the way that we speak to ourselves is so important.
It is, it's the thing. I, you know, it's so easy to just like not think anything about the beratings that we give ourselves.
Mhm.
And that includes little things like having conversations with people that you wouldn't have out loud because you're running it through your head because you feel like you've minimized your voice. And if we could just speak your truth.
Mhm. Yeah, especially to ourselves. We are the only person that we are going to spend our entire life with. We are with ourselves 24/7, and tend to be so hard on ourselves. And I see it with so many women that the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves tend to be so negative. And when we change that script and we start speaking our truth to ourselves and start treating ourselves kindly, our worlds can change drastically.
And our health.
Absolutely.
You'd be surprised how many people they shift the way that they think about themselves and their health improves because they start making better decisions for themselves. And like you wouldn't you wouldn't do the things that we sometimes do to ourselves to somebody that you really cared about, like a child. I mean,
Mhm.
but we'll do it to ourselves, even though, you know, like food is one example. You know, you might not give your kid alcohol. We'll just use that as an example. But you might be self-medicating with lots of glasses of wine at night and
Mhm.
not thinking anything of it.
Mhm.
It's just like, you should treat yourself like the goddess you are.
Absolutely. I mean, we starve ourselves so frequently to look the way that we think society wants us to look. And especially with social media being so prevalent in our lives, we get this highlight reel of what other people are saying and doing and what their thoughts are. And so instead of giving ourselves things that take care of our bodies, we do what we think we're supposed to look good to other people. Just like you said, we wouldn't do that to our child. I wouldn't say to my kid, no, you shouldn't have that piece of chicken. He wants it, he gets it. Speaking to ourselves, taking care of ourselves is absolutely where we need to start.
Yeah, for sure. So I told you I was going to ask you about your athletic career. So I'm curious. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So I was a bit of a couch potato until I was in high school. And when I got to my freshman year of high school, I knew that they had a swim team at the school and I really wanted to be on it. I'd always loved being in the water. And I showed up for the first day of practice, my freshman year of high school, in the same swimsuit I wore in the summer to play in the pool, with no cap and with no goggles. And I remember seeing a poster of Janet Evans in the locker room and thinking, I'm going to be like her as I was getting dressed. And I go out onto the pool deck, and all the other girls have caps and goggles. I'm like, ah, it's fine. I don't need that. Well,
Speedo swimsuits.
yes, let's just say the first day was very challenging. I had never done a workout of any kind before. I'd taken swim lessons growing up, but then I get to this pool and it's an hour-long workout and I was not ready. The next day, my grandmother and I did go get cap and goggles, but that was a very hard first season. But I loved it. I loved the sport so much. And every chance that I had to do more and learn more about it, I dove into it. No pun intended. I did a clinic after the high school team season ended. I joined the YMCA swim team for the next 2 seasons. And at the end, the spring of my junior year of high school, I joined a USA swimming team. I was training with people who were Olympic trial level athletes. And I loved it. I loved going to practice. I was so excited. We had 4-hour workouts every day after school. And my teammates would joke with me that I was the preschooler of the group because I just couldn't wait to be at practice. And I loved it. I dove in every day, had a great practice. Wasn't the fastest swimmer because I hadn't been doing it that long. Most kids started when they were 6, 7 years old. And I really wanted to swim at a Division I college. That was my dream. The University of New Hampshire was my dream school. It was my reach school, and I didn't get in with my swimming. I was able to swim on the team. I walked onto the team. I got in because of my academics, and I swam for 4 years. And every chance I got home, I could go home, I went home and I trained with my team at home because that's where my friends were. I enjoyed swimming in college, but it was a really hard experience for me. However, it taught me how to coach because I didn't want to coach the way that my coach coached me.
Mhm.
So, a couple years after I graduated, I decided to get into coaching myself. And pretty much my first year was spent going, what would Josh do? I'm going to do something different. What would this person do? I'm going to do something this way, or not this way, or yes, this way, judging on all the coaches that I had before. And so I learned so much from these experiences. And being an athlete is the definition of a high achiever in so many ways. I'm intimately familiar with the high achieving mentality. You want to win the race. You want to be the best at practice. You have to be there on time. You have to do all of these things to be the best that you can be. And I became a
The
perfectionist.
basics.
Yes, because of that, I was always at practice on time. I always did all the sets. I would go sick. I would go hurt. I would be there. And I learned as a coach that we can't always do that. Showing up sick doesn't help anybody. Showing up hurt only hurts yourself further. And becoming an athletic coach, I learned on the back end of it was how I fell in love with coaching people outside of a pool. That's what led me to this work.
I love it. I have a funny story about swimming on swim teams because I swam on swim teams my whole
Oh,
life.
love it. I love another
And,
swimmer.
and so my sister and I, who's 2 years younger than I was maybe 8, so she was like 6. And it was a Navy swim team. So, and it was in San Diego. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Stam, I think was
Mm.
his name. It was a long time ago, but he went to the Olympics and he trained on our team. So the coach is like all the beginners were down at one end and the real swimmers that were competing were at the other side of the pool. But the coach looks at the whole team and says, "Okay, everybody in, do 1,000." And my sister and I we looked at each other and our eyes were like this big. We thought 1,000 laps was what he was talking about. We made like 2 or 3 laps and in the time that it took everybody else to just whip them all out.
Got to start
and
somewhere.
and we met on the side and she's like, "How many have you done?" I said something like 2. And she's like, I've done one. I'm never going to do 1,000. I said, well, let's just do one more and we'll call it good.
Goodness. Yeah, I remember those instances when I was starting out where I didn't know what the words meant.
Yeah. And that's a lot of it when you get into something and you want to be really good at it and you don't know the terminology and it confuses you. And
Mhm.
so you're more worried about whether you're doing it right
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
that you can't really focus on doing it
Mhm.
sufficiently.
Mhm.
Um, which kind of takes
Absolutely.
us back to what you do, which is help people overcome the perfectionism side of things.
Yes. And as my background as a coach and also as an educator, I have a master's degree in education. I understand how important it is to explain things to people differently. And sometimes we have to explain the same concept or discuss the same concept or run by different ideas, the same theory in several different ways
Mhm.
because people absorb things differently. And sometimes it takes a few times before you absorb it and before you understand it. And that is okay. We don't have to get things the first time out. And I think that people get discouraged when they make a decision that they want to change and something happens and they fall off the wagon, if you will, or, something comes up and they make a choice that wasn't in line with what they really want. These things are okay. We're allowed to make mistakes. You get to choose to stay on the wagon. You get to choose to get back on. You get to choose to try again. Failure is only a lesson. You
Yes.
can always restart.
I love that. And I loved when you were talking about jumping in the pool and you'll never be as fast as everyone else. Your muscles grow in a certain way, and your body actually grows in certain ways. Like if you look at gymnasts' bodies, because they start when they're really young, grow in a way that facilitates them to be able to do that sport.
Hmm.
Swimming is kind of the same way. Your
Very
body
much.
muscles grow and your bone density even is affected by the sport that you do.
Hmm.
And if you start into the sport later, you can be good,
Hmm.
you can be really good, but you're never going to be the same as somebody who started really young and just stuck with it. Like figure
Hmm.
skaters, any sport that you can think of that works on developing muscles in a way that isn't necessarily natural. I mean, you don't wander around doing, you know, freestyle swimming motions when you're
Yeah.
walking. I mean, it's
Well,
not a normal motion.
absolutely. Not to mention the fact that you're anti-gravity when you're in the pool. All
Right.
the all the laws are different. The way we breathe, the way we move, it's all different because it's an anti-gravity sport. So, absolutely. And the way that we look at the world is different based on the lens of our own backgrounds. Everything that we perceive, you and I could have the exact same experience. You and I are experiencing this podcast together, and we're going to walk away, and you're going to take things that I take differently. That's just the way the world works. And it's to be able to have the conversation and to learn something and to process something and how you process it in your mind and speak to yourself about it. That's how we can make the world better.
And giving yourself space to not
Hmm.
be the best right out the gate.
Hmm.
You may get proficient at something and you can love it and be proficient, and that's enough. You don't have to be perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved practice. I still love training. I don't like going out and competing. I don't do swimming anymore. I enjoy CrossFit. That's my drug of choice now. And I love going to the gym and working out, but I don't want to go and compete. I have no desire to do that. And that's okay. I show up a couple of times a week. I enjoy it. I go run the other days. I do whatever it is that feels good for my body. I'm finally at 44 feeling what's good for me today. I don't have to go do anything particular. And to be able to have that freedom and to not beat myself up because, oh, I should have gone to the gym today. That's a gift. It's a gift you can give yourself.
Yeah, and it applies beyond just like fitness. It applies
Absolutely.
to your business. It applies to your relationships.
Hmm.
Some days I just don't feel like talking to anybody. So I go upstairs in my room and I veg,
Hmm.
and it's fine. It's not
Hmm.
like I do it every day, but it's giving yourself permission to be you and to like being you and not feel like you have to have somebody come along and say, okay, you're good.
Hmm.
Th-
Hmm.
Who are they and why does their opinion matter?
Right. I have a client who is in her 20s, and she is now for the first time learning who she actually is because I've asked her questions about why she does certain things,
Mhm.
and she started to realize the impact that all of the other people, all of her family members, all of her friends have encouraged her to believe one way or another. And she says, "Oh my goodness, I am actually getting to know who I am and why I want to do things and how I want to spend my energy." I wish I knew that in my 20s.
Too.
And it's so cool to see someone opening up because they're starting to see, oh, that's what my mom said, or my dad said, or my brother said. I get to make my own choice. I get to speak kindly to myself. I get to have gratitude for my experiences. I get to do things. We are autonomous humans. How cool is that?
So cool. And it's so cool when you finally recognize it. And
Hmm.
it's something that's happening more and more now, but I would say it's a relatively new phenomenon.
Hmm.
Most people just have gone through life basing their decisions and their self-worth on what other
Hmm.
people told them
Hmm.
it was going to be. And
Yes.
that's a miserable way to live.
And unfortunately, partly because of social media, because of the way the world has gone, our youth is becoming more and more perfectionistic.
Mhm.
They expect things to be perfect and wonderful right away, the first time out. I get into my dream school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And unfortunately, that's really hindering our youth. We're seeing more and more perfectionism. And I really hope that as a parent, I instill in my child that he doesn't have to be perfect. We all make mistakes. We have to be resilient. We have to learn how to move past things. And that's something that perfectionists really tend to struggle with. That's where the self-talk can get really, really negative when something doesn't go the way that they expect or the way that they want or the way that they were told it would go. That's when the self-talk gets really, really rough. So that's why we focus on it so much in my work.
Yeah, well, you have to. It's a matter, I think, of people not enjoying the present. They're
Hmm.
always waiting for this expectations that they've set to occur for them to be happy,
Hmm.
rather than just enjoying the experience. However that experience shows up, it's perfect because
Hmm.
that's how it showed up. So
Hmm.
it must be perfect.
Hmm.
Instead of saying, well, I have to look a certain way or I have to have the latest whatevers to show up in and I have to dress a certain way, the dress for success thing. I wear overalls most of my life. It's like it's what makes me comfortable. I don't really care what other people's opinions of my overalls are. Um, but for so long we've been told you have to look a certain way in order to be successful. Um,
Hmm.
but that's not true. What you
Hmm.
need to do is have fun and
Hmm.
have an experience and appreciate the experiences that you're getting. And it's not that, you know, hard times aren't going to happen, but you can appreciate even the hard times. The things
Hmm.
that seem like they're going crossways for you could be the best experience you ever have. They can
Hmm.
teach you the most.
Hmm. Absolutely. If I had been promoted into two different jobs that I tried to apply for when I was coaching, I probably wouldn't be sitting with you here right now. I probably would not have met my husband. I probably wouldn't have my amazing little 4-year-old. If I had been promoted to an associate athletic director for excellence, or if I had been an associate head coach, I probably would have stayed in Hanover, New Hampshire instead of following my heart and moving to St. Petersburg, Florida, and having my now husband be, I think, the third person that I met when I moved down there. Life takes us in the direction that we're supposed to go. Our plan is not usually the way it goes. Almost
This is
always the universe has something else in store for us, something unexpected. And when we learn to have gratitude in the moments that we think are hard, and they can be hard, and you can be hurt and experience it and live it. But when we look back, if we can have gratitude, we realize that all of those moments make us the person that we are right now. And right now, we get to choose the person that we're going to be.
yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that person in order for you to be perfect.
No.
You can have an idea, and
Mhm.
I really believe people should have an idea of where they want to go,
Mhm.
because otherwise you're just going to meander aimlessly. But
Aimlessly.
but it doesn't have to be that exact spot, and it doesn't
No.
have to look the exact way you think it's going to look. It can look it can look different, but you need to recognize that, hey, I got there,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate how it turned out,
Absolutely.
and
I
keep it
actually
moving
shared a
forward.
really funny story on my Facebook account a few weeks ago about the cake at my wedding.
Hmm.
I had, I was 36, 37 years old when I got married. I'd been planning this. I'd gotten to a point where I thought I wasn't going to get married. So when we got together, we were getting married. I know where I want to have it. I know what I want to do. Da, 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 da. I had a list. I had a binder. I was one of those girls. And we got to the reception. The wedding went without a flaw. The ceremony was wonderful. The photographers were fantastic. We get to the reception, and two of my bridesmaids come running over to me and they said, Jen, there is a giant bump in the cake. And I walk over and I was like, just give me some food and put a glass of champagne in my hand. I'm so ready to party. I walk over to the cake and I go, huh, my cake has a tumor. And they both look at me and they go, you don't care? And I was like, I don't care. Let's have a party. And we had people coming up saying, is she pregnant? Is this like, are they trying to say something? Is this a surprise? No, it was just the cake smushed a little bit. I don't know.
But
But
it's a story now. You
it
can
was
tell. Had it
it
been
was
perfect,
funny. It didn't have to be perfect. I just wanted my dad did the service. As long as my dad said the right names, I was happy. He'd been calling my husband Justin instead of Jason several weeks, and we're like, that's not gonna work. As long as he got through it without doing that, we were good.
and you got a story, and it was an experience, and everybody else got to enjoy the experience,
Yes.
and you didn't have to be worked up about it, and you could just like appreciate
Yep,
the day and
absolutely.
have a great memory. And like I said, you got a story, because how many people get a bump in their wedding cake?
Hopefully not too many, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great day.
So when you coach people, how
Mhm.
does that look? Is it groups? Is it one-on-one? Is it combination? Is it courses?
Sure. I am primarily one-on-one right now. I really enjoy the interaction of speaking with a person and watching them grow and challenge them. Every single session is completely unique. I coach as a life coach the same way that I coached as a swimming coach. I have a plan in my mind of what I want to do, and then I see what my client needs at the time. I really do pay attention to what's happening in their lives. And sometimes I might think, hey, next time we're going to talk about body image or we're going to talk about family trauma. And something comes up and happens. And we have to shift gears because something more important is happening. When I started working with my own coach last year, I was wanting to leave my corporate job and I was wanting to get into business for myself. And I hired a coach because I wanted to start this business. And a few weeks into our working together, my mom fell very, very ill. And I called her and I said, I can't talk about business right now. And she said, of course you're not. Of course you're not going to be able to talk about business. And we probably didn't come back to talking about business for a few months because I learned I had a lot of other stuff I needed to work through first. So the presenting problem, the presenting reason that you come to coaching is so often not the reason that you're actually in it, even if you don't realize it at first. My problem was that I didn't want to work in a corporate position anymore. I wanted to have more freedom. I wanted to see my kid more. I wanted to be part of my family more. I wanted to travel and do fun things and talk to interesting people. And so that was why I got into it at first. I wanted to make a difference and a bigger impact in the world. And then my family started to fall apart. And I had to put it all on the back burner. I had to take care of my mom. I had to take care of my dad. I had to take care of my relationship with my husband. I thought that I needed a coach to help me get through business, and it wound up that I needed a coach to help me figure out my life.
And
So
it
it has to
really,
be individualized.
yeah, it really does. Life coaching, when done right, it is really one-on-one. You can teach people tools in communities.
Mm-hmm.
And communities are really helpful because they can support each other.
Mm-hmm.
But just the because life just happens. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you may think you're going down one path and
Mm-hmm.
really it's surprise, you're going down a
Yes.
different path. And there's seasons in life. So,
Mm-hmm.
you may think this is the start of my business season when it's really it's the put my family back together reason season.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will give me some experience and um some examples even to take
Mm-hmm.
forward into coaching because unless you've actually had these experiences, it's really hard to coach somebody else coming through them. Not impossible,
Absolutely.
but it it just it helps you keep up and
Yeah.
to make a difference in a meaningful way and to be able to
Absolutely.
you've had this experience where you had to switch gears with your
Mm-hmm.
coach. So you understand that it's going to happen to your clients too.
Of course. Life hits us when we least expect it. Literally my mom was gardening and cleaning out the garden on a Saturday, and by Wednesday she was in the emergency room, and thank God I took her. Um, Sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
and you have to be willing. I could have all the plans in line for any one of my coaches, any one of my clients, but if I come in with a plan and they come in and say, my mom's in the hospital, we got to be willing to throw all those plans out the window and take care of the situation at hand and take care of the presenting problem at that moment.
So how do people actually work with you? I mean, in terms of how do they connect with you?
Absolutely. So, in terms of like how do they reach me?
Mhm.
I'm on Instagram at Jenn underscore Verser, Verser. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as Jenn Verser, and my website is www.jenverser.com. And like I said, I work one-on-one with clients. I meet with them over Zoom. I have people that I work with all over the world. I'm very flexible with my time because I do want to make the impact with people. I feel like it is so special for people to trust me to be inside their lives, and I'm here for them. Presence is so important.
Really is important. I've had times in my life where I really needed to talk to somebody who was a little bit disconnected from my life
Mhm.
and from my circumstances.
Mhm.
Not not family, not friends, because they're too close to you. And they're
Mhm.
going to be inclined to just give you advice that may or may not be useful because they
Mhm.
don't personally have the tools to help you
Mhm.
navigate what you need to navigate. And
Mhm.
sometimes in life, it's just really helpful to have a life coach who can say, Mm, I see where you're at, and here's a little bit of like these are some of your options that you may not have even known existed. It's just giving them tools to be able to navigate the situation that they're in.
Mhm.
Not you have to do it this way, but
Mhm.
here's some ideas.
When you're
or
standing in the grass, it's impossible to see it growing.
yeah, yeah, I
You
love that.
can't see it. And even sometimes people come in and they love you so much, they want to fix. And
Hmm.
I look for maybe not the fix, but the why.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem? Why are you doing this? Why? And I ask the questions. Really do try to not give advice. I give some options. What if you try this or that?
Mhm.
But what works for me in my mind might not work for them. So it's important in my mind to give people choices and thoughts and ideas and opportunities, opportunities for them to allow themselves to make a decision.
And sometimes just opening the door of conversation. Like you may think of something that's like, have you thought about this or that
Mhm,
or the other thing? And
mhm,
not being attached to the outcome because
mhm,
it's not your life, but allowing them the space, I guess is the best way to put it, to imagine a different scenario
mhm,
because you've given them some like it's like piling on the kindling and starting the
mhm,
fire. They're going to throw the logs on. They're going to come up with their own solution. But had you not given them some ideas that, you know, options were available, you're
mhm,
not stuck in this situation. And sometimes we
mhm,
just find ourselves stuck. It's like,
mhm,
you know, that there's a million things you could do, but you're not really sure what's the best direction to turn in, and
mhm,
and to just be able to have the conversation about why. You know, you said you looked for their why, but you know, your friends aren't going to ask you why are you thinking that?
mhm,
What's the outcome that you're looking for, and why are you going down
mhm,
this path, and can we just explore it
mhm,
without being attached to any outcome? And I don't
mhm.
have to tell you how to fix that problem because,
No.
you know,
And
I'm not attached to it.
how often do your friends talk to you for an hour about you? And you don't
Yes.
have to feel guilty or like you should turn the situation back on them because that's the time for you. You come to me, and my energy is for you. It is for your growth, it is for your development, it is for your success. You don't have to ask me how my day's going. I get to be with you right here in this moment. This is the best part of my day because
Yes.
I get to be here for you. You don't always
Yeah.
get that with your friends. You rarely get that with
You
anybody, I
rarely
think.
get it. Yeah, because everybody has their own problems and they're trying to like navigate it. And so you never get to that space where you're getting a conclusion, or you have the space to just talk. I mean, we complain about our husbands, they never listen to us. As women, often we just need to talk things out. And
Mhm.
it just we don't need to have anybody telling us anything about what we're talking about, but we just need to express it so we can hear it for ourselves. I don't know about you,
Yes.
but I do that all the time.
I at one point had a very challenging coworker when I was coaching, and we were on a training trip. And I said to my mom, I don't know how I'm going to get through this training trip. I don't know how I'm going to make it through with this person. And she had been watching Good Morning America. And at that time, they were doing this play of the day. I don't know if they still do it, but she said, I want you to call me every night and I want you to tell me what the play of the day is. And when I got home after those 2 weeks of training trip, she would say to me, I can't believe that this happened, or I can't believe that that happened. I'd forgotten about half of them. I'd been able to let them go. It was the play of the day. I told it, and then it was gone. And I got to let go of that. What a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah. You have a very wise mom.
I do. I am very blessed for sure.
That's awesome. And I know that you have a guide that you give to people. It's called Unstuck, What's Really
Yes.
Behind Your Procrastination, and the Unbound Journal, 3 shifts to help you break free from perfectionism. Want to
Hmm.
talk about that a little bit?
So Unstuck is a about half an hour master class, and I go into just about how to let go of that procrastination. What causes it? What are the scientific reasons behind it? Why do we do it? And then some ways that we can let go of it. I give three really solid tips that you can use, and there's a little meditation at the end. It was about 5 minutes long where you look at your future self. We often look back, but I offer a meditation to look at our future. And then the Unbound journal is a guided journal to help you work through what's keeping you in one place. I want you to learn how to speak your truth, especially to yourself. I want you to learn to release judgment. We all judge. We are human beings. It happens. But usually, when we do it, is actually a reflection of ourselves. So, if we're judging someone else, what is it actually saying about us? And then to really trust yourself. Speak your truth, release your judgment, and then trust. So I guide you through those in that journal.
Love it. I love it. And people can find that at jennverser.com/pod gift. And we will be sure to put those in the show notes. Thanks for joining us, Jenn. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill.
To learn more about Jenn and to access Unstuck, What's Really Behind Your Procrastination, and the Unbound Journal, 3 Shifts to Help You Break Free from Perfectionism, please visit jennverser.com/podgift. And as I said, we'll put those in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in today to the You World Order Showcase podcast. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Be sure to join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.